Temu or Shein seems to be accepted as well as the luxury brands. It doesn't seem to be a paradox. We know what the planet needs. We know what we should do. But the action behind the thought is the hard stuff. On the level of the companies, I think we all need to create the solutions that make it easy and accessible to lead a more sustainable life. Being low on resource, high on creativity. I love that. And then I think being just someone people want to collaborate with. That's maybe the best advice we can get in life, right? To being collaborative and not competitive.
Today, I'm thrilled to welcome Oliver Lange to our podcast. Oli has a remarkable career in fashion, retail, and innovation, from hands-on store management to overseeing whole retail areas for Berlin and the Baltics, and most recently, co-founding H&M's Berlin Innovation Lab, called H&M Beyond. Over the past 6 years, Oliver has led both research and pilot projects with startups exploring the potential future of retail, from on-demand manufacturing to the integration of retail with metaverse and gaming environments, and tailoring retail strategies for Generation Alpha. Today, we'll go beyond H&M to explore the broader landscape of fashion and corporate innovation with Oliver Lange. Oli, it's a pleasure to be chatting with you. Thank you for joining me. How are you today?
Oh, thank you so much for inviting me. I'm great. Spending time with you today is great, and I hope you and me we can create some value for the people listening. So
I'm sure
much.
we will. No, it is my pleasure. Every time we meet, we have so much fun, and we meet for business, but it's always a fun meeting, and I get a sense that you bring that to the room with anyone that joins and visits you, and I'm sure you have gotten that feedback. It seems embedded in you, and that brings me to the question that I want to start with opening this conversation is, how did you start your career? How was it? What was it in your life that led you to where you are today?
Oof. Well, there's a lot that I'm thinking about right now, but let's not call it career. Let's talk about it as if it's life in general.
Yes, I love
So
that.
I mean, there were some painful moments in life, which we all have growing up, and landing where we are, right? And I equally like to embrace the painful moments. Looking backwards, there had been some major shifts in life that helped me. But yeah, as a kid, I mean, I was just enjoying life, playing football, being out there with my team. And honestly, I was very creative in the beginning as a child. So wherever I could use my hands and do something, I was happy. I was a happy boy, and
Nice.
I think being a happy boy is something that has never left me. So even though I'm grown up and I'm more than 40 years old, I just feel like a little boy that sees a lot of potentials, opportunities around himself. So and maybe that's one of the narratives that I like to think about, that the world is full of opportunities, and I feel that I get energy from creating stuff, from identifying problems and solving it. And I spent also 10 years at university in Leipzig, which is a wonderful city in Germany that you might know. And I was spending 10 years there. During that, I was doing music, very complicated, noisy, annoying music that no one really wanted to listen. But also here, I was sitting in my small room back in the days, arranging music, playing guitars and synthesizers and stuff. So I was very dedicated to that. But then after university, I also felt, well, I somehow need to earn money to have a family, to grow up kids, right, and to afford life how I think it should be. And then I took my first contract with the fashion industry. So I was working in the fashion industry for all my life, although I studied sports, communication, and linguistics, so English studies. Although I studied that, I found myself ending up in fashion retail stores. So
how did you if you're coming from sports and even music, how do you land there?
yeah, I was doing this also during the studies. I was working in a fashion store
Mm-hmm.
to earn money, and what I felt, what I liked about it is having a small team around me, having a
Mm-hmm.
good time, having fun, but also fundamentally supporting people or consumers that were coming in and were asking for fashion pieces, were asking
Mm-hmm.
for advice, right?
Mm-hmm.
We're asking for products that would help them self-express, products that fit, that
Mm-hmm.
suit them, and I liked these situations, especially on a Saturday, right?
Mm-hmm.
Whereas today you might feel, let's not go to a shopping store on Saturday, uh,
Yes, yeah.
right?
That's
you know
unfortunately how we feel today.
exactly. So I love these situations, and yeah, and then I also felt that if I just listen to my heart and not listening too much to what I think a career should be, as you called
Yeah.
it, I just felt like, well, I like fashion. I
Mm.
love fashion. I love people, and I love to support people in expressing themselves and finding their personal style. And this
Mm-hmm.
somehow basically never left me. So then, from the
That's
first store, uh, I my wife applied me to this huge company called H&M. It's a global one,
yes.
right? And
And we are familiar with it.
maybe. And so I was not brave enough back in the days to apply myself because I felt like, well, they would never accept me. Maybe I'm a little bit too unprofessional, a little bit too childish.
Mm.
So my wife applied me because she felt like that I could do this. They will
Yeah.
take me as a manager, and yeah, somehow they did. So I got my first role being a store manager within H&M,
Mm-hmm.
overseeing a full store, full concept, full team, and I was overwhelmed, Jamie. I was overwhelmed. And
Yeah.
I'm not sure if you have it, but I have it. Many people have it. It's like the imposter syndrome.
Yeah,
Have you
absolutely.
ever heard about that?
Absolutely. Yeah, yeah. I
Yep.
we recorded an episode recently with my business coach on it because it's such a part of our lives,
Yeah.
and I for a long time I didn't recognize it as a thing. But so you
Yes.
spotted it back then, or is it now that you look back and you think, "Oh, I had it."
Yeah. No. No. It's. I think if when you have it like kind of the whole life.
Mm-hmm.
And I was constantly under pressure working for H&M. I felt like I will fuck this up. They
Mm-hmm.
within 3 weeks they will see that I can't deliver, right? But
Mm-hmm.
then something great happened. I got to know the team better. I somehow had the opportunity to create trust,
Mm-hmm.
helping them being successful in their job and having just a good mood and a good energy in that store
Mm-hmm.
together with consumers. I really loved it, although it was
Mm-hmm.
huge and complex. And then very quickly, my manager asked me if I would want to go the next step. And you know how it
Mm-hmm.
is. You
Mm-hmm.
try to walk in your shoes in that role,
Mm-hmm.
and someone else comes way too early, asking you to go to take the bigger shoes on.
Yeah.
So also here it was like I was so overwhelmed, and then we moved to another city with my family, small kids. Yeah, and then I got a preparation for area management, which is kind
Yeah.
of a sales management for H&M. Um, and then I got the chance to move to Berlin, working as a
Nice.
retail manager in Berlin, which was fantastic. Yeah, and then something happened that I've never experienced before, which is
Mm.
like a downside, which is like learning that life is not linear,
Mm-hmm.
learning that although you might want, you can't deliver on anything, and although you
Mm-hmm.
might want, you are not capable of doing everything exceptionally good or as good as others. And I
Mm-hmm.
was I was pushing really hard to be successful in that role, but it just took so much energy
Mm-hmm.
that
Mm-hmm.
I was really kind of depressed. I would even say,
Mm-hmm.
because I felt like what is expected of me
Yeah.
is not what I can deliver on, and it's just something I would want to, but I simply can't. So there was
Mm-hmm.
that moment in time, Jamie, where I felt either I quit, or I will be get really sad and ill.
Mm-hmm.
So
Mm-hmm.
I was opening up to my managers in a trustful moment.
Mm-hmm.
I was saying that
Mm-hmm.
I'm preparing to leave because that's not the job I can do. Sorry that you invested so much time and
Yeah.
energy in me, and I'm sorry
Mm-hmm.
I was fucking up this job. But she
Mm-hmm.
was saying, you didn't fuck up. You're just realizing that this is not fitting 100%,
Yeah.
but we won't let you go. You are not allowed to go. What you are going to do, you take 2 days off, and you will think about what you think you would want to do in this big corporate world, what you think you want to deliver on. And this was kind of magical. I would not say in that moment I was crying a lot, but it's magical when people see you and have a big
Yeah.
belief that
Yes.
they want you in their company, in their life, whatever. And even though you don't know in that moment, they believe that there's something in you that creates value. So,
Yeah.
and that was the moment where I just felt like, I'm not sure what I want to do, but I want to be creative.
Mm-hmm.
I want to be free. I want to do
Mm-hmm.
something that I really believe in, where I have complete ownership, where I have the
Mm-hmm.
complete responsibility, right? And yeah, and this was then the time where, without a proper name, I was starting to do innovation work for H&M in a
Mm-hmm.
bottom-up movement. So
That's amazing.
yeah, so that was it, and I'm telling that story because I feel without having that downfall, or without having that learning and that experience, that you somehow you need to find
Yeah.
out what's in you,
Yeah,
what
absolutely. And
speaks out of your heart, right?
no, absolutely. Thank you
Yeah,
for sharing that. I mean, it's so hard to also talk about those moments because you never, because of that same imposter syndrome, it is hard to acknowledge that I'm not being as good as I think I could be, or, or even as simple as I'm struggling, I'm sad, I'm
yeah.
depressed, or it's being a really hard time. And what a blessing, by the way, to have such a manager, that
Wow, yeah.
first of all, it says a lot about you to create, to build that sense of, someone believing in you, but also to have someone that sees, the potential, that also,
Hmm.
cares about you as a person, as a professional. I had that opportunity as well. There was at one point in my career at Deloitte where I approached my manager, and I told him I'm ready to leave, and I
Hmm.
have even another opportunity because of this and that. I'm not feeling fulfilled with this. I have this struggle even at a family level, and this manager basically did the same for me. He said, no, 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 wait, let's think about this. There are other ways to do this in this monster that's Deloitte. So that's kind of like the benefit also of being in a company that is big, that has possibilities.
Yes,
So yeah, I think it
true
is also
that.
important to talk about that, because
Hmm.
we all feel like that at some point in our career. Multiple opportunities. I'm sure you continue to feel sometimes like it. Um,
Right. Yes.
and yeah,
And
but
Jamie, if
yeah,
I, yeah, just because you said it, and it's so important, right? That when you have these leaders around you that inspire you and that help you to develop, I mean, you also want to be this for other people, right?
yes, yes,
Either if you lead a small team or a big team with different responsibilities, I think having a leadership approach that is not managing people, that is like leading teams,
yeah.
helping them to develop, to get the best out of them, celebrating successes, but also accepting failures on the way, which you
Hmm.
and me, we would not call it failure, we would call it learnings, right?
Yeah,
Because
yeah.
that's also signs of this time, and this is kind of belonging to our world at the moment. If we do not stumble, if we do not fail, I would say we are not innovating enough, if I can say
Mm.
that.
Absolutely, I agree. And by the way, also the transition from, store management to innovation, that also, it is amazing to me, and it is something that is so, admirable. And I think, I don't know how it was back then. How was that transition? If
Hmm.
especially in times where you co-founded that role, that team. Um, was that common to go from managing stores to more of a corporate role that's so strategic at the end of the day, right?
Hmm. Yeah, that's a wonderful question, and I felt like that this was more or less homecoming, to be
Mm-hmm.
honest. If I'm telling the story now with some time in between, I just felt like that uh, being a store manager and being a retail manager for H&M, it was not really me. It was me behaving like someone,
Mm-hmm.
playing a role, if I can say that. So playing
Mm-hmm.
management, right? I didn't know it back in the days. But now I know I was leaving my turf. I was leaving my field. I was trying to do that job because I felt like I need to earn money. I need to be successful. But then
Mm-hmm.
when I got complete freedom, so there was someone who was cutting all the strings, right? So you do what you do. So decide
Mm-hmm.
yourself. And building up this innovation team within some years, it just felt like, okay, I can do
Mm-hmm.
some steps. Is someone
Mm-hmm.
observing me? Is someone controlling me? Do I need to deliver? What is
Yeah.
expected of me? And all these questions were leading back to myself. So what do I want? What do I expect from me? What do I think is innovation and what is needed in this big company?
Mm-hmm.
What risks would I take, right?
Mm-hmm.
How would I set this up? Do I need to
Mm-hmm.
collaborate? Can I do this on my own? So this kind of freedom felt really, really familiar and felt like it fits my personality. So
Mm-hmm.
and maybe that's also part of my story, that I I have this tendency to and the will to find out on my own. So
Mm-hmm.
normally I don't want to do what others have done. Normally I just take a problem and I want to sit and think with myself. How would I do this, right? So
Mm-hmm.
looking what is inside of me, that's maybe also an entrepreneurial energy that's there. So how would I do this? And this
Mm-hmm.
freedom, building up that team, was like homecoming. So it was like, okay, there's no one expects anything. The biggest expectation I have myself, and how would I set up innovation? And how would I
Mm-hmm.
prove that this makes sense?
Mm-hmm.
Was an interesting move, but took a lot of time in libraries, and it took a lot of discussions with great people and great advisors on how you would do this.
Mm-hmm. Now, do you think that before we go into the topic of the innovation and how you crafted this role, um, do you had, you mentioned that you had this curiosity and you still have it as you call it, as a boy, even as an adult. How do you preserve that, from growing up? We lose so much of that. How do you preserve it?
Yeah, that's, I mean, curiosity is and creativity, that's maybe the greatest gifts of all time. And what saved me from not losing it is like being a father now. And I don't
Mm.
think you have to. It's not the only way, but when my wife gave birth to our wonderful little daughters, and they are now 11 and 8,
Mm-hmm.
um, something changed completely. And I felt like they will grow up in this world. And there will be a moment when they will ask me, what have you done?
Mm-hmm.
What have you impacted? What have you really changed, right? Or have you just get a monthly paycheck, right?
Mm-hmm.
So, and visualizing this moment when they really will really confront me on how I have spent my 26,000 days or whatever it is we have, that puts a lot of pressure on me,
Yeah.
and it just asks me to not stop creating and solving problems, right?
Mm-hmm.
Wherever I see them and however I could do this. So that's just one thing. I think the world also asks us
Mm-hmm.
to be curious and creative, looking at problems and looking at what needs to be solved, right?
Yeah.
And doing this in the fashion industry. So that's one thing. And the other thing is staying open and allowing failure, taking risks from time to time, right? Trying
Mm-hmm.
out things.
Mm-hmm.
It's not that I think perfection is an illusion, right? So
Mm-hmm.
it's rather the progress that we need, right? So
Mm-hmm.
being curious on how you would solve something, trying to solve it on your own. So that's something that I usually take as a decision, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I mean, you see a lot of wood in my
Yeah.
background. So we constantly need to rebuild our little flat here because the kids are growing up.
Yeah.
And I like to have these little challenges every day. And it can be cooking some new meals, or what do I want to wear?
Yeah.
How do I make the little motorbike, and how do I make this going to work? What can I read? Where can I look to? So using different sources in life, and being curious, and having this as an active decision, um,
Mm-hmm.
to also leave your comfort zone for a while. And you know it, right? So
Yeah.
life can be really comfortable in
Yeah.
Germany.
Yeah. Yeah.
We
I
It
love that.
is.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's.
Yeah.
I mean, I would even. It's kind of utopia, right? Because there's so many things, and if you, I mean, so that's just one. That's just a thing. Leaving the comfort zone, also in the little tiny things, and also looking at kids and observing how kids explore the world is maybe a good recipe to stay a little bit more active in that.
Yes, yeah, no, I think, and that's also a topic we'll touch upon later, how kids can influence, can be, and
Yeah.
can help us kind of like envision the future. And it's a topic that you and I have shared before. But yeah, I completely agree, and I love the idea of forcing, basically actively creating this discomfort that it can lead to it leads to growth, and also shake things up a little bit so that you can see things differently.
Mhm.
Now, the question is, how
Yeah.
do you do that in a big corporation like H&M and or any other corporation? And that leads to your transition into founding a whole new team and a whole new approach. How do you preserve that now in a corporation?
Yes. So H&M Beyond is a tiny little team of 5 people. We are Berlin based, and we are a grassroots movement. So
Mm-hmm.
so it's bottom up. Although I got the opportunity from my manager back in the days to look into
Yeah.
what I really want, it's like that we have invented this whole thing, and we saw that the fashion retail industry has so many challenges, and not just today. It's like
Mm-hmm.
the last 30 years, there was not much innovation happening, right?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So it was just like, okay, selling fashion to the world, helping people to express themselves. And then there was the moment where you saw, well, okay, you can't do like that. The whole
Mm-hmm.
consumption behind
Mm-hmm.
it is maybe too much, right? And the
Mm-hmm.
planet asks for a different approach, circular business models, a change in behavior. It's also
Mm-hmm.
asking us as human beings, right? So
Mm-hmm.
there was a lot on the table on, okay, what should we do, right? And in order to do that, I think the first recommendation or the first learning we got is be connected to the strategy,
Mm-hmm.
right?
Okay.
So I think you can't do successful corporate innovation if you are not connected to the strategy of the company,
Mm-hmm.
because that equals that you have a godfather, that you have
Mm-hmm.
someone who's believing in you, right? You
Mm-hmm.
can't do innovation circus. So if you end up doing whatever you want because you just think it's fun and it's cool and there's a technology, and you behave like you are tech and you are tech driven, I think sooner or later you will stop this, because it's not what the world
Yeah.
asks for. So being con-
You're gonna be hit into a wall, which is the
exactly.
corporate wall. Yeah.
Right, exactly. So that's just one thing. Understand your company and what it wants to change and what it needs to change, and have someone on very high level who's also holding your back and keeping the
Mhm.
frame for you, right?
Yeah.
If
Yeah.
there's no one who really protects
Yeah.
your freedom, then sooner or later it becomes hard, right?
Yeah.
And then I think another thing that we learned quite hard is that you can't do innovation in an ivory tower, or what is ebony tower or
Yeah.
ebony tower, right? So if you don't talk to people internally, if you don't listen to their challenges, if you don't involve colleagues in
Mm-hmm.
your processes and making them part of your solutions, it's really hard to create buy-in. And
Yeah.
this we needed to learn that this needs to happen very early. So it's not just doing a cool project and then you have a great result and then you just
Mm-hmm.
try to show it to the people internally and
Yeah.
they will love it. This will not happen.
Yeah.
That doesn't happen very often. I feel that solving something that also the company believes in, that they really need to solve, to grow in the future, to have meaningful growth, more profitability, better products, right? So I think that's very important, to mirror your process early on in the corporate world, so people should know
Mm-hmm.
what you're working on. And then maybe one other thing is that collaboration is key. So it's not at all possible that no matter if you have 10 people in your innovation team or 5 or 100, I don't believe that you will be successful if you do not collaborate internally with other teams or even with the outside world. So that's why
Mm-hmm.
we decided to go for an open innovation approach with H&M Beyond. We actively involve the ecosystem around us in creating solutions. So
Mm-hmm.
it is about startups. It is about you. It is about
Mm-hmm.
universities, other brands, other entrepreneurs, and to actively involve together in a team that wants to solve something, right?
Yeah,
For me,
absolutely.
that's the beauty of things, which brings a lot of implications, and we can talk about that, what this means. But I think that's very important to me. And then, I mean, in order to keep yourself alive as a team, you also need to show you need to show good results, and you need to show that you can create value.
Yeah,
But it would not be enough to just do it on your own without any collaborators. I don't believe that this would be the case.
yeah,
But I mean, it's an iterative process. You can't, an innovation team, you can set it up today. Tomorrow it will be totally different according to the needs of
hmm
the world, but also the needs of the company you're working in. So you need to be really flexible and agile, in also changing your approach the way it might be needed. But so
yeah,
far, open innovation, collaboration, small team, high on agility, high on creativity, low on resource, celebrating failures as learnings. So the mentality behind it, if I can say that, the mentality behind it and the mindset and the values, that's an absolute driver. So I
yeah,
would even say that it's not so much about like the professional skills. I mean, you need to have professional skills on that, but like being contagious, getting the energy high up, getting
hmm
people excited, motivated, inspired, getting
hmm
people in your team to do their utmost best in the projects. I think that's what drives at least our approach. So that's why we got partnerships that we could only dream of, because people were just willing to be part of a cool project, if I can say
Yeah,
that.
absolutely. No, I think I mean, it is so easy for an innovation project or team to feel like a threat internally, and to feel like like you're being challenged as an employee of a company, that you are at risk. And so that getting that buy-in by involving people, I think that's honestly one of the keys, as you say it. I completely agree, and I've seen it happen as well. Like,
Hmm.
you don't want to have a resistance with the people that that are you part of your company, and that you're also trying to push forward and move forward with you. It doesn't have to. It cannot feel like a competition at the end of the day between the innovation teams and the corporate, standard teams. Um,
Right.
so yeah, I think
Hmm.
that's one of the approaches that I really liked about how you were taking on innovation within the Beyond team, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Mm, how easy is it to then bring into that corporation the startups, and maybe we can talk a little bit about how did you lead those partnerships? What do you think was
Mhm.
successful from that?
Mhm. Yeah, I mean, as I said, we are doing open innovation, so we are extremely dependent on having great partners that
Mm-hmm.
want to collaborate. And I think this is the first challenge we got, looking back through the years. So it's not at all the case that like these fantastic young entrepreneurs, the startup scenery, may it be in Israel, may it be in Berlin, wherever, right? And there's fantastic people out there like you are, icons with fantastic ideas, and purely inspirational. So, and it's not that if H&M, like H&M Beyond, is knocking on the door, it's
Yeah,
not that everyone is just saying, finally, now we
yeah.
have our corporate partner we can collaborate with. This is not the world. I think there's also like hesitancy. There's
Mm-hmm.
also like, wow, should I work with a brand like H&M? They are so huge.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe they are slow, maybe
Mm-hmm.
they don't mean it, right? So
Mm-hmm.
that's a lot of things we found, we heard. And being open, being transparent, and being empathetic for these first discussions, that for me was very eye-opening. I need to
Mm-hmm.
create trust and credibility before I can even start talking about doing a project. So that's why,
Mm-hmm.
Jamie, we are much more focused on, okay, who are the people? What do you
Mm-hmm.
want to reach? What do you need as a startup? Why should you do a collaboration project with H&M or someone else?
Yeah,
So what's in it for you?
yeah.
It's very important for me to be clear on how can I even support like a partner, right? What would they
Mm-hmm.
need, or would I potentially harm them? Would I
Mm-hmm.
potentially harm their development, right? So
Mm-hmm.
that being clear on that is very important. So that's one thing, trying
Mm-hmm.
to really on eye level understand each other, and then see if there is a big intersection on why you would want to do a project together, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because if you, for example, look at risk, um, if you and us, we would do a project together. So I don't think that this is equally distributed between the partners. So
Mm-hmm.
if H&M Beyond is working with a startup, if something goes really wrong on our end with H&M Beyond, then it's just one of the projects that didn't turn out.
Yeah.
For the startup, it might be a total different story, right?
Yeah.
Because normally they put every effort in, everything, the full belief into these partnerships. So I need to make sure that if we fail really, really smart. We don't
Mm-hmm.
fail in a dumb way, like something
Mm-hmm.
that we could foresee, right? And
Mm-hmm.
and knowing that there's a difference in how risk works out, right? Because I will be paid if a project goes wrong, then I will do the next. So this is a story, and I'm just saying that because I think you need to take this responsibility over. I need to take this responsibility for my partners and feel responsible for them. So that's one thing. Then
Mm-hmm.
also looking at the processes. I mean, how long can you do projects together with startups? The
Yeah.
concept of time and speed is so different. Uh, so if we would need to look at the procurement process, for example, or getting the paperwork done,
Mm-hmm.
if we would have done it always according the needs of the big corporate, it would have never happened. So sometimes we just did a letter of intent or something
Yeah.
that was good enough, right?
Mm-hmm.
But good enough to get the traction and to get going. So that's also something that is really was really important to me. Another thing I like to mention is the visibility. So
Okay.
we felt that if we could do projects and help our great startup partners to be seen,
Mm-hmm.
then we should do it. So we celebrate our partners. If we do press releases or whatever projects
Mm-hmm.
in the streets, in the stores, we put heavy, heavy lights on it, on our
Amazing.
partners,
Yeah.
and we talk about the collaboration. So we say that this is a collaboration between this startup and H&M Beyond. So we like
Mm-hmm.
to make them visible, and also another thing is to get to create access to the right people. So H&M
Mm-hmm.
Beyond we are a tiny team of people that could be wrong. We are no experts in anything. We are just, I
Mm-hmm.
would say we are good in getting people excited for innovation projects and running these projects. But experts need to talk to experts. So
Mm-hmm.
we need to make sure that when we collaborate with a great startup, we have the right connections internally. So the
Mm-hmm.
connection itself is not H&M Beyond. The connection should be sitting in the
Mm-hmm.
teams of business tech, IT, marketing, right? So we need to draw these lines and we need to make these connections so that also the startups has the feeling that they can really work in depth on detail on the solution that is to be created, right? So if we zoom out, it's about delivering the access, creating visibility, understand what a startup really, really wants and needs and what they want to get out of the project. And
Mm-hmm.
then the last thing that I think is important is to also create very early connections to business ventures and to
Mm-hmm.
financing arms within the big corporates. So H&M, for example, has like the collab,
Mm-hmm.
as you might know. So they are investing in startups very early. And
Mm-hmm.
Sellpy, for example, which is a fantastically developing second-hand platform, is like coming out of this development,
Yeah.
being connected to Colab. So that's also a responsibility we as an innovation lab have, that we
Mm-hmm.
make these connections so that there's also a potential bigger partnership on global level happening, right?
Mm-hmm.
And that way, I can at least secure that we do enough to make sure there's something in it for our partners, and that it's
Mm-hmm.
not just that we are taking what we can get, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
So
Absolutely.
that's what
How,
I think it should be.
how did Oli, this sounds all of this, if I summarize it into a couple of words, it sounds to me a lot about honesty and transparency. All of these things, they come down to we're just being honest with you. And
Mhm.
also, you're playing a long game. You're saying we don't win if we just take the most that we can right now. We win if we go fair, if we give a little bit more, if we invest and risk a little bit more, because it doesn't have a big impact on us if we do it right, because we want to build those relationships. But most importantly, like you said, because we want to be trusted, you know, as a
Yeah.
corporation.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Is that something that you know, I guess it has taken years for you to develop that framework, but how then do you pass on that mindset to the corporation, to the strategy, like you said, or is it coming from them? Was it shared, or do you
Mm-hmm.
have to also educate a little bit and manage upwards?
You are so smart in summarizing and asking good questions, Jamie. Thank you for that, and for demystifying in not that much words. What is it about? And I would sign a sentence that is saying it's about trust.
Mm,
I felt that, and this is also pretty relaxing for someone like me. It's not so much about the process. It's not so much about the expertise and the big logos. It's about, okay, can we connect on human level? Do you
mhm,
feel that we are honest with you? And do you feel that we can create something fantastic, right? So I feel that's, I mean, trust, I would also consider it to be a leadership expectation,
mhm, mhm.
right? So I think that if people are leading people and having important roles in corporations and wherever, I think if they cannot manage to create trust, then it's maybe not the best role. I think it's
Mhm.
hard to train that, to be honest.
Yeah,
Maybe you
yeah,
have a recipe for it, but I think it's more like a mentality, and it's something you have in your heart, right? Do you believe in people?
yeah,
Are you an optimist? Do you think that collaboration is way more important than your ego, right?
yeah,
Are you willing to change yourself because you would do it for others,
yeah.
right? I felt that I was actively searching and scouting people for the team that
Mhm,
have this capability. To be honest, so
mhm.
if we are not able to connect on human level, then normally things don't turn out that well. So
Yeah.
that's our secret sauce, and you have already seen it now. That's kind of the secret sauce, how we create engagement internally as well as externally.
Yeah,
Trust, empathy, transparency on eye level, and it's hard to train. I would say you have it or you don't.
yeah, yeah.
Um,
But you know
um,
what?
yeah.
I think what something that is very cool, because it's very easy if you have it to lose it, because we're in a world where being honest and
Hmm.
transparent, it sometimes can be scary if the people around you are not. But
Hmm.
if but also it helps a lot that others have it. You know, like you said, you're bringing people that have it, and that helps someone feel confident to also continue being honest and transparent. And you know, it happens to me a lot
Nice.
with one of our investors. Um, that you know, we have great investors that looks that are you know very that's abide for the same principles. And whenever we have a situation where the answer is simply yeah, just be honest and transparent. And just go for it. It is really the best way, and that
Hmm.
empowers me a lot, you know, because it is really
Hmm.
one of my values and I feel confident to live it. So I think it's
Hmm.
a bit of a mix, you know, and even the people that don't have it in them for whatever reason, they could feel empowered by others promoting it, especially others that are in a position of power or in a position that they could guide you, right? So I think that's
Nice.
something great that you're building in your team, that you're bringing into the corporation, right?
Yeah, and uh, exactly. That sounds so great when you're talking about it. And one thing that we actively did, I mean, as an innovation team, as I said, it's always important to also demonstrate your values internally, because you want to make sure that someone is funding you, people are believing
Yes.
in you, right?
Yeah.
And you are not perceived as a threat.
Yeah.
So what we usually do after 1 year or whenever, right? We are sending out surveys to our
Mm.
internal as well as our external
Mm.
partners,
That's great.
and we ask questions about, um, was the project you have invested in successful? Did you get out of this partnership what you were expecting with H&M
Mm-hmm.
Beyond, right? If you would describe H&M Beyond as a person, how would you
Mm.
describe that person?
That's cool.
Um, and what we got back, Jamie, is exactly what you were saying. So it was about trustworthy, energetic, inspiring, contagious, and
Mm-hmm.
there was, I mean, I would love to say that people were saying they are so professional, they are just experts. This was not the majority that wrote this, right? The majority was like, well, with these people and this mentality, you can reach crazy good things. And these surveys, we also usually show our management and our people to also tell the story that you have told, right? So
Mm-hmm.
to create an environment and create a habitat where
Mm-hmm.
trust and empathy and risk taking is rewarded, right?
Yeah.
And where it's
Yeah.
not so much playing the safe game and doing the elbow tactics,
Mm.
right? Which
Yeah.
which
Yeah.
which in the long run, you said it, which on the long run will definitely not be successful, and it's not what
Yeah.
the world asks for.
Yeah. Yeah. Honestly, and by the way, I think there is nothing more professional than being trustworthy, and I think that a lot we're realizing that a lot more and more, and so yeah, and I think that's the sense also that I get whenever I meet you and the team. And now speaking of those interactions internally, that survey is amazing to measure how much are you progressing and how you're seen. Are there any other recommendations that you have for someone that is trying to become an entrepreneur within a corporation, that
Yeah.
someone that wants to become an intrapreneur? What would you recommend?
That's a great question. And I think, I mean, if we would go through the list, I think it's like having a connection to the strategy of the company. So
Mm-hmm.
being connected to what the company believes in. Find your godfather. Find the one
Mm-hmm.
who's protecting you. It's rather someone high up in the hierarchy, right? Who's not asking you to have an impact on the P&L every month. Right, because
Mm-hmm.
that's a little bit where the pressure is, I would say. So, earning money at the moment with the big players could be seen as a potential threat to innovation teams, right? So that's why you
Mm-hmm.
need a godfather, someone who believes in you, right? Who sees your value. The other thing is mirror your topics and mirror your process and mirror your work within the
Mm-hmm.
organization. So be visible, be seen, be be listening to the teams and what problems and what challenges they have. Be useful to the people, right?
Mm-hmm.
Also internally,
Mm-hmm.
be useful to them. So you should be approachable for someone who has a problem and who needs innovation. So maybe you
Mm-hmm.
are even supporting them with tools and methods. Maybe you
Mm-hmm.
are also facilitating teams internally in their innovation work. So that's all little things you could do to have a value and be seen, right? Another thing is have a team with diverse perspectives.
Mm-hmm.
Extremely important. So don't get only mini-me's around you that have the same language and have the same view on the world. Be very,
Mm-hmm.
very diverse, right? So that's very important. I think know how to be measured.
Mm-hmm.
So what is expected from you? So who are
Okay.
the
Yeah.
ones who would expect something and what is expected of you? That you at least need to know, right?
Yeah.
Because
Absolutely.
sometimes people will ask, and you want to be valuable to an organization. So know what
Mm-hmm.
know what you are measured on, and then there's like these little innovation laws that you might know.
Mm-hmm.
Being low
Okay.
on resource, high on
Uh-huh.
creativity. I love that. I
Yeah.
adore it. So keeping the resource, keeping it really low. Also, maybe pushing your team and yourself to be really low
Mm-hmm.
on resource, it boosts creativity. I would say it's always
Mm-hmm.
the same. So don't think that you need a lot of money and a lot of resource around you to do innovation. I
Mm-hmm.
don't think that this is critical. And then
Yeah.
I think, as we both agreed on, uh, soft skills, um, being just someone people want to collaborate with.
Mm-hmm.
That's
Mm-hmm.
maybe the best advice. The best advice you can get in life, right? To being collaborative and not competitive, and then it's like also finding a way to deal with failures,
Yeah.
to make
Yeah.
sure you take risks that are big enough so that you are not just optimizing the business, that you're
Mm-hmm.
really innovating, which might be
Mm-hmm.
a threat today, can be very, very important that you look into this and you create a solution for the next 10 years or something. So, so,
Yeah.
so that I would say was not a complete, but what was a list that I felt is important to share.
No, I think it's right on point, right? And I think sometimes, there is also a challenge when the company doesn't see the value on, triggering innovation from within, which is out of our hands, of course. But if you have the possibility to trigger innovation from within, I think that's a pretty comprehensive list, right? What about from the other side now? Like, what do you recommend to a startup that wants to
Mhm,
collaborate with a corporation? If
mhm,
there are any different tips that you have.
mhm. Phew, that's a very good question. I think that um, if I would be a startup or running a great team with fantastic with a fantastic solution, fantastic idea, I would try to identify who's the right person in the big corporate world. So what do I want?
Mm-hmm.
And what so do I want to do an innovation project, right? Then find out who's the one you would need to talk to in a corporation, like in the bigger corporate world. Then being really, really clear on what you offer and what you need,
Mm-hmm.
that's extremely important, right? And have a clear framework on how much you want to give and what you need to get for it. So
Mm-hmm.
if the corporate world is having too long processes, if you don't get access to the real people you need to talk to, if you don't get access to somewhat data, which is also just coming from trust, right?
Yeah,
Um,
yeah.
then I would ask myself twice. I mean, is this the right collaboration partner, right? But then it's also like, do we have a shared set of values? What do we
Mm-hmm.
believe in? How do we believe the retail industry, for example, will change? Do we
Mm-hmm.
do we have the same vision, right? Do we
Mm-hmm.
believe in sustainability and circularity, or do we not believe in this? And this
Mm-hmm.
is like guiding principles that I would also argue that from an outside perspective, that is really, really important, that you know whom you collaborate with. And if you know that the process is kind of fitting well together, um, maybe that.
Yeah, yeah. No, I think it's a great start. I mean, of course, there are many nuances on the specific case and the specific companies, but I think that's really the basis. Not what you want, not what you need, and not what you're going to ask for, and make it clear, right? And so
Yes.
I think it's right on point.
Hmm.
Um, let's talk a little bit about the future,
Oh.
and maybe let our minds go a little bit based on your experience recently working, on frontier topics. Um, how is your view on the future of not only retail and technology, but also what do you think what do you think are the skills that we need to foster for this changing environment where we are at the moment?
Yeah. I mean, from an innovation perspective, I would say it's exciting times, right?
Mm,
Which is not saying that it's good times or bad times. It's just exciting because the pressure's on. I think
mhm,
there's urgency. So we
mhm,
we need to we need to create a lot of solutions in a short period of time, and it's
mhm,
all the industries. And it's not stopping before us as human beings. So we all need to ask the tough questions, right?
mhm,
So how do I consume? What do I impact in life? How do I spend my time, right? Am I a consumer? Am I a prosumer? Right? My
mhm,
wardrobe is full of garments. What do I do
mhm,
with it? Still, I'm going
mhm,
to shop some new stuff, right? So
mhm,
we as people, we need to reflect on our behaviors, on how and who we want to be, how we want to
mhm.
raise our kids, right? What values are important, how we make sure that people are coming together and not separating each other, right?
Yeah.
And having that much conflicts, and then the industries, and you see it in the mobility, you see it in the retail industry. There's threats on all of them. You can't
Mhm.
stay as you were the last decades.
Yeah.
There's no opportunity, right?
Yeah.
And the ones who have started early, innovating themselves and transforming, are now the front runners, right? And you see that in the car industry, there's fantastic new players in the world
Mhm.
from a product perspective, right? If you then look, okay, what are their ethics? How do they produce? What do they do? Then there might be some other questions. What I want to say with that is that everything is in change.
Mhm.
Nothing can
Mhm.
stay as it is, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
And I feel that this is exciting, and there's also some paradox situations to it. So if we look at the fashion industry that we both love, something like Temu or Shein seems to
Mhm.
be accepted as well as the luxury brands,
Yeah.
or right, and it doesn't seem to be a paradox. It just
Yeah.
seems like that people can talk about sustainability, and people, we know what the planet needs, we know what we should do, but there's also a tendency to that the action of it,
Yeah.
the action behind the thought is the hard stuff. So it's the typical attitudes and behavior gap, right?
Yeah.
So
Absolutely.
we know what it is, but can we really change it? That's tough, right? And
Yeah.
so I feel on human level there is this, okay, self-reflection. Who am I? Who do I want to be? What's my impact? And do I really do it? On the level of the companies, I think we all need to create the solutions, the products, the services that make it easy and that make it accessible to lead a more sustainable life, a
Yeah.
circular life, right? so so for me that's very important, and the political system and the legislation, I mean, you can also see that from a EU perspective is also pushing into that direction, right? So I think there's a lot of players that
Mm-hmm.
have a role to play, right? And I would not
Mm-hmm.
say the consumers are the ones. I would say
Yeah.
the companies need to develop. The
Yeah. Yeah.
consumers, they need to participate and they need to feedback, right? Legislation needs to set the framework so that all the companies are having like the same framework basically. So that's the world how I see it. And from a skill set, if you look at the World Economic Forum and how they are seeing the world, there's a dramatic shift in needed skills
Mm-hmm.
that we will have in the next years. So what is trained in school is maybe not exactly what is needed. So what we all can do is like also focusing the soft skills, problem
Mm-hmm.
solving, right?
Mm-hmm.
Looking at all these tools. How can I create my own business in the future? How can I solve a problem that I have in life? I think that's very, very important skills. That I talk with my kids about, not
Mm-hmm.
giving the simple answers already if they have a
Yeah.
question, like asking back. So how would you
Yeah.
do it then? Maybe,
Yeah.
which
That's.
which which I like. So because the fashion industry itself, if we just dig a little bit deeper, Jamie, the fashion industry itself has a fantastic value, which is
Mm-hmm.
it's putting garments on our bodies that help us to express ourselves, that helps us to show belonging, right? To
Mm-hmm.
show who we belong to, what we belong to, or what we don't belong to. But
Mm-hmm.
also, it's protecting our body.
Yeah.
So when you
Absolutely.
think about where fashion comes from, it's like protecting the body from the planet, from
Yeah.
whatever influence is there, right? The light,
Yes.
the water. But then in Europe, it's now like self-expression and cool and bah, and it's all of that, right? But
Yeah.
now if you look how the planet and the climates are changing, it might be, and this is very dystopian, but it might be that fashion becomes that value of protecting again a little bit more, right? So
Yeah.
also this is changing, but I love that fashion is helping people and individuals. This is great, but the way
It
fashion
is.
has been produced in the last decades is not
Yeah.
exactly how it should be. So what I wish to see and what I want to see is that we will see a hell of new services and circular business models, sustainably done from the beginning, and taking consumers with it on that journey. So making us
Yeah.
not just consuming stuff, but making us
Yeah.
being active creators and also prosumers in that world, using what we have, selling it, lending it, swapping it, and then in the far end, like being the creators on our own. I don't see
Yeah.
that in the future there will be big brands who are creating the design narrative for everyone. I feel that the kids, the alpha generation, they will be the ones having the power in their hands, creating
Yeah.
fashion on their own and selling it. So the
Mm-hmm.
whole roles will change. They won't only consume, they can also create and sell if they want, which I think is extremely exciting and is also needed.
Yeah, absolutely. And I mean, that point of, how, first of all, that analogy of how clothes were made for protect our body, and now we're self-expressing with it. But then this is not what you said, but what came to my mind is maybe the clothes end up harming our planet. So we go from protecting us from the planet to harming it,
Hmm. Hmm.
which is a place where we don't want to go really.
Yeah.
Um, but also that triage of, consumers can be the change, but we have to build a technology that makes it easier, which is the reason why we did looks in this way, right? Our company,
Exactly.
to make it easier for people to, consume better.
Hmm.
And then of course a framework that supports that. That's really what I hope the work goes moves towards to.
Right.
But what when you say prosumers, what do you mean with that?
Yes, I mean, it's a nice shift. It's a nice shift of a narrative. I mean, consumers can be just acting as putting money on the table and getting something for it, some value, right? As prosumers, what I mean by that, if you look at the wardrobes of people in Germany, they are completely full.
Hmm.
That's the story.
Everywhere, not only Germany,
Everywhere,
but in
yeah,
most of
everywhere.
the developed world.
In the yes, northern hemisphere maybe.
Yeah,
And then there's some numbers that I just can't forget, which is that every a piece in the wardrobe is worn average 7 times. So
crazy. Yeah.
imagine you would buy a pair of trousers which are €100 expensive or worth it, well, €100, and you just wear it only 7 times. I
Yeah.
don't feel that this is the equation it should be, right? But what is missing is exactly what you say. There is the technologies that will support the consumers to own their wardrobe again, to know
Hmm.
what's in there, to know how they use it. So if I look at my wardrobe, for example, and I would have a technology that is AI based, it could quickly tell me that there's 6 pairs of trousers that I have not worn half a year. So, and it
Hmm.
would maybe support me in finding solutions, selling
Hmm.
it or
Hmm.
swapping it. And the
Hmm.
technology will also tell me that maybe 200 meters there's someone living who searches exactly this pair of denims, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Um,
I agree.
or you can bring it to this micro facility next to Berlin. If you bring it there, we can make you three new pairs of trousers in that color that you will be missing, right?
Yeah.
So you
Yeah.
don't need to shop it. So what I want to say with that example of owning your wardrobe in a creative way is that I'm not only consuming, I'm also thinking about how I work with the resource I have, how I can
Hmm.
sell it, how I can lend it, how I can earn money with it, or how I can create new designs out of this, what people would call waste, right?
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
and so, so did, this brings me into a total different role again. So I'm becoming more active. I'm not just participating by shopping stuff. I'm participating by selling, lending, and working with something. Uh, this is very romantic to me, but I think this could be the future.
No, I think it has to be because the truth is, and sometimes it's very hard for me to say this, but I think it is the truth. The truth is that we're all good. I like to believe that people are good by nature, but we're also people of incentives. We're also humans. We move by incentives, and and it really the amount of care that we have for the planet versus how easy it is to actually do good things for the planet has to
Mhm.
balance out, because the moment that I realize, okay, I'm not using those pants in my wardrobe, but and I want to sell them, but I need to take pictures and upload them and
Mhm.
whatnot, and then I say, I don't really have the time at the moment. And it's a fair answer. We cannot judge people for having that being in that situation.
Exactly.
We just gotta work on making it better and easier, right?
Yes,
And
that's so
um
true. Yeah, and
yeah.
Jamie, if I can give that one example, because I think you're spot on here. I mean, if you look at Zelpy, for example, how they have done it so far, I mean, you just get a box, or
Hmm.
like you can get it from an H&M store, or you can order it. It's like a bag, a big plastic bag that is recycled material, and you can
Hmm.
just put everything in there that you don't want to see anymore in your wardrobe, and it can be
Hmm.
kids garments that the kids are outgrown, right? So you're putting it in a bag and you are just sending it to
That's
Selpie.
cool.
That's
Hmm.
your only responsibility you have. Then Selpie is taking over, like putting the garments out of the bag, putting it on a hanger, taking photos, making the whole
Nice.
description of it, giving it a price tag. So, and when they are ready, they will send you a tiny email and will say, well, you can now look at your portfolio of products you are going to sell, check the prices if this is fine for you, and if so, then click on the button and we will sell it for
Nice.
you,
That's cool.
right?
Yeah.
And I think this at least tells the story that if things are easy, then people might participate. And you know that the growth rates in secondhand or pre-loved, however we might call it, the growth rates, they are
Yeah.
spectacular. They're,
They're
I mean, in
amazing.
the end, it's just tiny. It's just tiny of the portion as today, right? But the
Yeah.
growth rates, they are just amazing, and I love that, because then on top, it's just about the curation on the platforms. So how do you curate pre-loved
Mm-hmm.
items with new items, but
Mm-hmm.
also with the products you have in your wardrobe? And
Mm-hmm.
that's why I'm
Mm-hmm.
so in love with Looks AI, because for me it sells the vision of okay, there's my wardrobe, and then there's these platforms where I can get stuff. And if I need something to complete my outfit, right? Maybe I take the jacket, the pants, and the shirt out of my wardrobe because I'm
Yeah.
remembered I have it, right?
Yeah.
But then
Yeah.
there's a fitting pair of shoes. I could get this on this secondhand platform, right?
Yeah.
Or I just take things out of my wardrobe and I'm swiping it to the left, and so it's automatically on the retail platforms, and
Mm-hmm.
people can shop it. That's beautiful and that's wonderful to me. And the more easy it is, the more fun it is, the
Mm-hmm.
more it's on the phones of the people, on the smartphones, the better. So congratulations on your work so far, because I
No,
think
thanks.
this is part of the solution in the future.
Yeah, no, that's a dream. That's a dream also for me. And speaking of the future, maybe to wrap things up, because we're right on the mark. What about the next generation of shoppers? You know, you have done a lot of research on Generation Alpha. What's your take on that, and where do you think that will go?
Yeah, the most exciting thing that we are looking at is how the alpha generation is expressing themselves and how they see fashion. And I
Mm-hmm.
think sustainability is kind of already in their DNA. So for them, it's totally normal to question why I need to shop something if I don't need it,
Yeah.
or to question what will happen with their pair of denims that is too short.
Mm-hmm.
So we can change that. I can customize it. I can upcycle it, or I can give it to my friend. So it seems
Mm-hmm.
like that this is kind of normal behavior. And the
Mm-hmm.
second aspect that I like to mention is that the digital worlds, Roblox, Fortnite, so whatever happens, like
Mm-hmm.
the social aspect of it, being playing with your friends on platforms, but also the creative aspect of creating avatars, creating worlds,
Yeah.
creating gameplays, uh, experiences, right? This is all you can do with your phone at the moment, makes it so that the younger generation becomes way more active in creating their own worlds, right? And if you observe like the kids on Roblox with a huge, massive platform, right? When you observe them, you see that creating your own avatar, changing the design of it, changing the
Mm-hmm.
skills it has,
Mm-hmm.
is just seems to be extremely exciting. So we were
Mm-hmm.
doing research with the younger audiences on, is there an effect? So what does this mean? So what means digital fashion,
Mm-hmm.
right? And
Mm-hmm.
it's kind of equally important to that generation. The representation in the digital worlds is
Mm-hmm.
equally important as in the physical world, right?
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
when I'm going to a meeting in the metaverse, it seems like that the look I have and the trend I'm wearing is important because it's self-expressing, right?
Absolutely. Yeah.
So that means that I think the value of digital fashion, it will be bigger than we think at the
Mm-hmm.
moment. Um, Let alone that we don't need physical resources to create fashion anymore. The
Yes.
CO2
Yes.
emissions will be significantly lower. No sampling process. It will be just be created in 3D digitally,
Yes. Yes.
right? We will wear it in these occasions in the digital worlds, but there will be a moment where, and now this is just a crazy thing, but I like it. If when we will all have glasses in the future or
Mm-hmm.
lenses where like mixed reality technology is built in on the streets, I just wear a white jumpsuit
Yeah.
or something, and for everyone who's looking at me, it will look different
Yes.
dependent on what they want to see or what I want to show, right? So imagine how relaxing this would be. But the truth in this is that the digital fashion aspect um, will have a huge impact on what we wear, what we need to shop, how much CO2 emissions we will create without getting rid of self-expression. So we can still
Mm.
self-express, right?
I think it's
Uh,
gonna be even more
yeah,
self-expression
you,
potentially.
yeah, you mean exactly. You mean it. I can be everything. The dress can
Yeah.
be out of flames, right?
Yeah.
Coming back to your question, I think that this is the really exciting observation. Sustainability mindset, circular mindset, already seeing the services of circularity and having this behavior. I think this is what the younger generation have. Also, a little bit this paradox of Shein. That's
Yeah.
also
Yeah.
part of it, right?
Yeah.
But I would not judge this. I would just say that there can be solutions in the future that make these businesses more sustainable. So let's see. But the creative aspect of creating your own personality, creating your own style, your own wardrobe, your own garments, right? And having complete ownership on buying, selling, lending it. I think that's something we can clearly see at the moment in the younger audience. So the future is really, really exciting, doing innovation in the fashion industry.
I think I completely agree. And I think it is a beautiful future. But how do we, seeing that we're so close to a digital future, how does the concept of, humanity being alive, how does that change for you, if
Mhm.
any, if it does, or in any way?
Yeah. Well, that's now we're entering philosophical
Yeah.
fields, right? So what does that do? Um, I would say I'm kind of romantic with human beings. I feel
Mm,
that there's things that you simply can't have in the digital world. You can't have in a Zoom call. So the
mm,
coincidence on the coffee machine, having eye contact, and the energy that is transported in a physical room. I
mm-hmm.
don't feel that, as far as I see it, I don't feel that you will have the exact same thing
Yeah.
in the metaverse, for example. So I feel that there will be situations where we would take the decision to be physically together, right, in a
Mm-hmm.
room with people. That's why we as H&M Beyond, we don't work that much home office. So we're coming together like nearly every day because it makes our work better and more creative and more fun, right?
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
that's just one thing. I think that there's things that are preserved and that is in our hearts that will always be there in a physical manner. And going out for shopping in brick and mortar, for example, right? I mean, if you look at after COVID, if you look at how people are going back into the
Yeah.
physical locations, and physical retail still is there and is not like that as many people have proclaimed, for me
Yeah.
is an argument,
Yeah.
like touching products, talking to people, getting real advice. On the other hand side, the digital world and is delivering so much creativity and new opportunities to
Mm-hmm.
express, to have experiences like never before, to meet people that you have never met, right?
Yeah.
Being
Yeah.
together with people in a room from from Mexico as you are today,
Mm-hmm.
so
Mm-hmm.
enjoying a concert of Beyonce and
Yeah.
just being there with our avatars and our glasses on and everything's just cool. How exciting is that, right?
Yeah. Absolutely.
And this is also very, I would say this can be very inclusive and this can be very democratic, right? So
Mm-hmm.
you don't need to have a lot of money to enter a Beyonce concert. Maybe
Yeah.
it's just your phone in the future and you will have immersive experiences, as we have also tested with H&M Beyond some virtual concerts already.
A nice.
um, yeah. So I think the opportunities there, they are endless to be creative, to experience new worlds, new people, have your friends around you, although you can't be close in a physical location. I think this is endless. So I would not say that one is replacing the other. I
Yeah.
don't think this is the case, and this is great, right?
Yeah.
But I would also say that all these developments, we should welcome them, and we should look at them, and we should see what value it creates for human mankind. So not everything that is fun and just cool is like also creating like the value that it could be. So I think technology should not be for its own sake. So we should
Yeah.
also look at what does it do, right? As well as AI, and the metaverse can have serious impact,
Yeah. Absolutely.
if we do it right, right? But we need to do it right.
Yeah, yeah, and I think, I mean, at the end, I get this question a lot, also to myself, and I think at the end of the day, there is no definition of what's more or less human, and I don't think, if we look ourselves versus, I don't know, a community that is in rural areas that have no touch points with technology at all, there are no more humans than us in any way, or we are more than them. So I think we're just evolving as a race, right? And we'll
Yeah.
just always be humans, but just with different gadgets and different ways of seeing the world and different ways of expressing ourselves. So I feel like we share that romanticism and that positivity towards the human race and improvement and progress, right?
Right.
Oli, I mean, time flew by. This was a conversation that for me, it felt like a minute, but we've been at it for an hour. So I want to thank you for being with me today and in having this conversation. I think you have done amazing work. I'm very excited to see what's next, in your career and in fashion and retail around you. I think that, yeah, it's a very exciting life. Let's not call it career.
Very good. Thank you so much, Jamie. And I share that. It's just one minute. I love
Yeah.
talking to you. And if there's any questions coming up, you will find me. But thank you so much for these wonderful questions and the great things you said, Jamie. I love being together with you, talking about this and that, and collaborating. So great stuff.
Right back at you. Thank you very much, Oli.